Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kenda Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of February 28th, 2024, and a date of marriage of 2005. She has an at-home MLCer who is a low-energy wallower. She says, my husband, who is 53, has been having an affair with someone he supervises who is also married since August of 2023. So that puts it at about 6 to 7 since it was the end of February, so 6 to 7 months when bomb drop happened. Okay. He said he would do anything to fix us, but that was a lie. In May of 2024, I got the I love you, but I'm not in love with you speech. I found another organization, Marriage Helpers, and learned of Limerence. Okay. We went to a workshop in June of 2024. He acted like he would fix us, but all lies. We slept in the same bed, and we were intimate until November of 2024. He was still seeing his Limerent Object. He moved into another room in January of 2025. They became official. He mostly sees her at work. He goes out once a month or every other month. In June, he asked me to work on the marriage, but never broke the emotional contact with her. 5 weeks ago, he decided that he was done again. He stated that he tried, but his feelings aren't returning. So done with the marriage again. Okay, not done with her, because when they cycle, it goes back and forth between being done with one or done with the other. Okay. He stated he tried, but his feelings aren't returning. He gave her a ring, and he still does not go out. So before he had been going out, but you said it was once a month or every other month. Okay. He drinks all day, every day, even at work. Okay. He still doesn't care. His job doesn't care. His job is in jeopardy because he supervises her. Intimate and drinks at work. I'm wondering if it's even worth standing. Okay, so there's a lot going on here that I want to cover. Okay, so, and there's going to be a few questions I may ask. So the first thing is, does his work know about this? Since you say his job is in jeopardy, do they have a rule about people having a relationship at work? Forget whether it's an affair, but just co-workers, if they weren't married, are they allowed to be in a relationship? And then now set that aside and say, what if they're in a relationship and one is married? Is there a rule against having a relationship? Because you say he is in trouble or about to be in trouble or at risk. Sometimes companies don't care. But is it because he's putting his job in jeopardy because he's falling behind or slacking at work? Or because they're about to find out? Where is that coming? Or because of all of the drinking? The next one, is he an alcoholic? Was this drinking a problem before? Next, what do you know about midlife crisis? So you've been to one of Joe Beam's workshops, which is Marriage Helpers. That's great. You've looked at Limerence. What do you know about midlife crisis, though? Because Joe Beam doesn't look at midlife crisis. He looks at Limerence. And the escape and avoid phase of midlife crisis with an alienator is going to be a Limerent phase. Okay? And he is showing those signs. And you're saying you're wondering if it's worth standing. He has shown that he doesn't want to let go of you. And he's showing standard cycling behavior. He is a clinging boomerang. Yet he hasn't moved out. He's at home, an at-home MLCer. So when you say what contact type is he, you're correct. He's an at-home MLCer. But he is also a clinging boomerang. So he doesn't want to leave you. He wants reassurance from you. He wants to fix you. And you say he said he would do anything to fix us, but that was a lie. So when what I consider lies are things that are intentional untruths. When somebody tells you something and they are deceiving you intentionally. If they say something that is untrue, but they aren't aware that it's untrue, then they aren't lying. Or if they don't mean for it to be untrue, such as they are going to try to finish. If my son says he's going to try to finish his homework and he really means it, but he doesn't get it finished, was he lying? No, he wasn't lying. So he says he'd do anything to fix you. And in the moment he spoke that may have been true. But it may not have been true at another moment also. And why I say this is my husband came and left 8 times. And in the beginning, those 8 times, not all 8, in the beginning, he came and left very quickly. Then the times got longer. So I think the first 4 were in the first few months. The first 4 returns and leaves. And some of them were tests. And so he did not come home with an authentic intention. But there were times where maybe later he came home with an authentic intention and it just didn't work. He didn't realize, or the first time he came home, maybe it was the second time, there was one of those times in the beginning where he just didn't realize how hard it was going to be and that he was really going to be sucked back in. One of the times he was home, and it was when the energy was showing and he was about to leave again. And we were in the car going to or coming back from a day ski trip. And he said, I have changed my mind. And it was regarding leaving again 50 times in the last 50 minutes. And he said it with absolute fear because I could tell that to him, he was going crazy and he was watching himself go crazy. And he couldn't control it. And so there were times when he came home and he really meant to be home. And why doesn't anyone believe me, he would say. But there was this one time where he came home and he was only home for a week. He must have come home on a weekend. And the next weekend, we went on a little getaway trip. And he was taunting me the whole time. And he was calling the alienator. And I realized the entire return home was a test for me to see what I would put up with. And I told him at that trip, you will leave when we get back. You're not allowed home. So he was basically kicked out, even though he wasn't home because we were on a trip. Because it was all a test to see what I would put up with. And he was just poking me. We stopped for gas, and he pulled out his phone and called her and was laughing. And he was doing it deliberately. So he didn't have an intention. That one would have been a lie. So I want you to think about that when you think about whether he's lying or not. So when you went to this workshop, and I've heard several people have gone to these workshops, and Dr. Joe Beam knows this about the people who are in limerence. When they come with you to the workshop, they are in the moment with you. And there may be periods of those moments where their feelings are genuine for you. But here's the thing about limerence. They step right outside of that. And I mean literally. And the phone rings. And it is the alienator. They are still at the workshop. And they are out of the moment. And they are with her. And the feelings are for her. Yeah. And now the feelings are about lying. And they are right there betraying you because they are telling her about how they are making plans. Because their feelings are genuine for her. Even though the genuine, what they are feeling is genuine limerence. But they don't get that. And feelings are valid. So I'm not going to invalidate what they feel. Because to them, they interpret these chemicals as what love is. And limerence is not a bad thing when you are two people who are available and healthy, and it's reciprocated limerence. It's just that isn't our situation, right? But in that situation, limerence can be what leads to love. Limerence fades and it can lead to lasting love. That may be how your situation started without it being an affair. So I'm not going to knock limerence itself. So you have these concerns about him lying. And there may be situations where he's done these things and he was intending to be untruthful, so he was lying, but some of the times he may not have been. So he went to the workshop, he acted like he would fix you, but it was all lies. Especially at the workshop. He may have been very much in there. And he was still seeing her. Then he moved into another room in January. They became official. Now, this one part, why did they become official? And how? He's still living at home. So this means that you were considering yourselves separated. He went public, let other people know, as though you were not living together, as though you're just roommates. And how did you feel about this? Because this seems to me to be, we are now living in the same house as though it's two separate, as though it's an apartment house. And why? I need a little bit more explanation on that, because why are you letting him? Or what is the coercion in this? Because you don't have anywhere to go. He doesn't have anywhere to go. You both are bound there financially and can't. Even he says, I'm going to have an affair with her anyway. And he makes it official. And he says, I don't have anything to do. You don't have any choice in this. Tell me a little bit more about that. You don't have to. I mean, it's a rhetorical. But if you have more questions, and others may want this too, because we've all been in this situation. Okay. Because when you have somebody who has an affair and you know about the affair and they're living at your house, that is when I'm not a proponent of kicking them. I don't like kicking them to the curb. That to me means when someone says kicking them to the curb, to me, that's the people who are saying no more. I don't want that relationship. But kicking them out, it can be saying I'm not going to live with you while you're in an affair. So I'm not a proponent necessarily of that, but I think there are times when it is necessary and there are times when it's not. And if you know about the affair and he knows that you know, that is an important key element right there. He knows you know that he's cheating. And switch genders if you need to, for whoever's listening. Then to the betraying partner, you are allowing it because you know about it. And that's a problem. It's a power dynamic now. They're getting away with something. She knows. Or he knows. And they're letting me do it. Or I said that they don't have a choice. And so I have power over them. Okay. And that is the point I kick them out. Now, I also don't do that at the very, 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 very beginning. First week, second week, third week, even month. I still try and work through things a little bit and adjust to the situation and see what can be done. But once I'm in for a while, get detached. That's a kick out zone. Okay. So I think that's my question is why are you letting him still live in there? Okay. So no, but he mostly sees her at work and he goes out once a month or every other month. So they go on a date. Wasn't sure about this. And It looks like you don't have children, but I'm not sure either there. But see, then in June, he asked you to work on the marriage. And you're here asking me, so I'm assuming you didn't say no. But 5 weeks ago, so June until only a few weeks back, to about a month ago, it seems like that was happening, at least in your mind. He decided he was done again. Now, here's what I want you to know. This is why I asked, do you know about midlife crisis? In addition to that, do you know about midlife crisis and the life cycle of affairs, especially midlife crisis affairs? Because everything you ask is if it's worth standing. What you are describing is typical. And people do come out of midlife crisis. I'm not going to make you a guarantee that your marriage comes through. I'm not going to make your a guarantee that your MLC comes through a midlife crisis. I don't guarantee anything. I wish I did. Wouldn't that be nice? But what you're describing is typical. He is cycling. And he's a clinging boomerang. He is going to change his mind. He does not want to let go of you. So he's going to want to repair. Oh, I can't lose you. I want to work on my marriage. But I can't let go of her. I'm still in for her. I want her. I want her. I want her. My husband came home. In other words, did what he's doing with you 8 times. And this was over 3.5 years. Okay. And limerence wins. I want you to understand this. Limerence doesn't last, though. But while it is active, just take this. Limerence wins. And that's what is happening here. He decided he was done again. Why? Limerence wins. He gave her a ring. I don't know about the he still doesn't go out, but he gave her a ring. He's living with you. He doesn't get it, so he's depressed and he's drinking all day, every day, even at work. Well, that is the sign of a really happy limerent guy, isn't it? Please understand the irony. Okay. His life is falling apart because of limerence. Well, because of limerence at the wrong time. In other words, when he's already attached to you. And you're wondering if it's worth standing. So the questions I have for you are wondering if it's worth it. Are you wondering if it's worth standing because you think he keeps going back to her, so he must really want to be with her? Or because he's so far gone, or because he's going to lose his job, or he's just lost soul? Why are you wondering if it's worth it? Or it's going to take forever? Or once a cheater, always a cheater? Or I don't want to do this. It's taking a toll on you. There are all valid questions in the wondering why if it's worth standing. Because if you want to be a stander and you're wondering if it's worth standing if they come out, probability-wise, unfortunately, reconciliation is not where most of us end. But why? Well, most of us don't put up with it. There's that. Most of us who do start out putting up with it just can't withstand it. And maybe if we did long enough, we would get through there. But we put up with it, we put up with it, we put up with it, and then we just wear out. And it's not we wear out, but the trauma. It takes a toll on us. Those bridges burn, okay? So maybe that's why. It can be not that the MLC but the left behind. So is it worth standing? Because it takes a toll on you. But if you're looking at whether he's going to return, what are the odds of that? He's a clinging boomerang. So I don't have a statistic to state that. But clinging boomerang, The odds are more in your favor than other types. He's still home. The odds are more in your favor for that already, even without the clinging part. He hasn't left. He has said he wanted to fix you in the beginning. He has come home, or he's already home, but he has said he wants to work on their marriage after it's already been going on for, well, bomb drop. More than a year after bomb drop, he said he wanted to work on the marriage, and that was almost 2 years after the start of the affair. That's a sign of somebody who wants to work on the marriage, or who not who is ready, but who does not want to lose his marriage. Okay. So, in general, for everyone listening, I want you to look at a few things when you determine whether your marriage is worth standing for. Some of you are going to go, I'm a covenant-keeping stander. This is a religious stand. Bam. Good for you. Okay. So, the rest of you, what are some traits that you should look at and say, you know what, maybe my situation is one I just shouldn't. I want you to look at your marriage before midlife crisis. Okay? And look at who your spouse was. Look at the quality of your marriage and be honest. Okay? And you might not be able to be honest. Now, maybe the quality of your marriage, but look at the quality of your spouse. Were you holding it up? If everyone outside says they were the greatest couple, but was it because one of you was holding that marriage together? So look at it that way. Is your spouse an addict? So when I look at things, I go with some of the 3 A's. Addiction, adultery, but put serial in front of that. That's why it's the 3 A's, because of the adultery, but put serial adultery. So that means take out the MLC adultery, but is he a serial cheater? Always cheating. Always, always, always. Not just during midlife crisis. Okay? You probably wouldn't be here if that were the case. But addiction, active addiction, denied, unacknowledged, somebody who is not doing anything about it. Okay? So active addiction. Abuse. And abuse is going to get dicey because you might not recognize abuse that has not been physical or sexual. We go back after years and suddenly realize, oh, that was emotional abuse. And it's been going on the entire time. And I didn't know that's what it was. Or verbal, which would be a type of emotional. So look at those things. Verbal and emotional abuse are going to be different. And if it's something that you've been accustomed to, you might not have recognized it. Okay? And then look at the other thing I look at. So those are the 3 A's. The abuse, the adultery, and the addictions. And those are common what counselors would advise of don't stand in this situation, or many would recommend divorce. The next ones, though, are personality disorders, the cluster Bs. If you choose to stand knowing your spouse is a cluster B, go for it. That's your choice, okay? Because anyone listening to this who has been on the forum a long time does know that we are going to have a lot of narcissistic traits. MLCers, you've heard me say it, and you've heard it out on the forum or on the Facebook page, that MLCers display high levels of narcissism. But, and that's a big but, what I say is that is during a midlife crisis. And so that does not mean an MLCer has narcissistic personality disorder. But maybe some of them have displayed higher levels of narcissistic traits, and it doesn't mean they are narcissistic personality disorder, but they just had some narcissistic traits before, and they've ramped up even more during. So I want you to think about the levels of narcissistic traits before. Were they more than you want? And now, think about covert narcissism. This is something that is a little bit newer in the literature. So go read up on it. And I think covert narcissism is standard narcissistic personality disorder. You still have to fit into the criteria for NPD, but it does not look like what we think of as malignant. They are not loud and boisterous. They are not the leader. They are in the background, manipulating behind the scenes. The wizard in The Wizard of Oz, that doesn't mean that he would be a narcissist, but he was behind the scenes, manipulating. Remember, Toto took the curtain and then revealed him? That's the idea. So that person doesn't need the limelight. So a covert narcissist, they think they're the nice guy, but there's still the gaslighting. There's still the manipulation. There's still emotional and verbal abuse. It's just more subtle. And I want each of you to look back at your relationship and see what was in the past. What was the health of your relationship in the past? And then, in general, look at the relationship you had in the past. Set aside those ideas of the 3 A's and the personality disorders and just look at hey, did we have a good marriage? Or, you know what? We really had a bumpy marriage, and it's a marriage that could be fixed. But it wasn't great, and we had a lot of rockiness. And truth be told, I think this thing here, this is going to do us in. The probability of reconciliation for us is lower than for that couple over there that had a really awesome marriage, and they're going through this. And that couple over there who has a clinging boomerang, and they're going through this. Okay. The next is clinging boomerangs have a much higher chance because the clinging boomerang doesn't want really, they need reassurance from their spouse. They don't really want to leave their spouse, but they do. They have limerence for this other person or for the idea of whatever their alienator is, whatever is alienating them away. They may have a limerence for a person, but maybe metaphorical limerence for something else, an idea of something that is alienating them. Typically, it is an alienator, though, a person. What is that? And that is going to keep even a clinging boomerang pulling them back and forth, but they need reassurance. But a vanisher? They're gone, aren't they? And vanisher means you see them or hear from them, some sort of communication once a year, maybe. What are the odds, if you don't ever communicate with a spouse, that there's going to be a reconciliation? So look at the probability in that. That's what I want you to use when you consider, is it worth standing? Because people ask me if there's hope, and I don't like to say, no, there's not hope, because there is always hope. But that doesn't mean that the probability of reconciliation is high. It just means there's a possibility, but it might be very low. And so I want you to recognize that and say, okay, is this low like winning the lottery low? And is this low like winning that gigantic Powerball low? Or is this like winning the raffle at the local high school low? Or, when somebody says, pick a number between 1 and 10 low, or what is it? What are your odds? Are they pretty good? Sort of good? Really, I am going to be lucky. Or somebody's going to choose me to be, the next Queen of England because they're going to marry me off to a prince. And then you can choose based on that also. But look at your data. What was your marriage like? What is your person like? How did they treat you beforehand? And what can you withstand? What is your trauma background? How much trauma can you handle? What can your children handle? Because I want to tell every one of you, beware for me. I want to tell you, yes, of course there's hope. I want everyone to make it. But I also don't want you to have to live with a narcissist. I want you to be safe. And I don't consider that safe. Okay. But I want marriages to make it, and I want them to succeed so much that I want to tell you there's hope. So I want you to determine what is best. And you have to do that for you, each individual situation. So what do you think for your situation? He's drinking all day. Has he always done this? How much is he ramped up? Does he need help? What kind of help is he willing to get? And he might not be willing to get much during his midlife crisis right now. But what is he going to be willing to get as he comes through his midlife crisis? That's where the key is. He's a clinging boomerang who hasn't wanted out. So the next thing, and I know this has been a long video, but it's long because this is one of my pet topics that is very important. I have an entire series on standing, what it is and why. The hows, the whys. And this is 5 articles. It is the basic introduction to my entire manuscript. So I am going to link, it'll probably just be the start article because it'll be follow up with all 5 of those articles. Why standing is one of those articles. Why should I stand? So I'm going to link that in the description below. That will tell you all about what standing really is. The other thing is I want you to make sure you go and, if you have not already, enroll in Understanding Midlife Crisis so that you understand what it is. I think that the last video in that free course, Understanding Midlife Crisis, it might be the second to the last, is the video on the affair. It's also the longest. I think it's 30 minutes. Most of the videos are pretty short, but that one is longer. And that's the one I really want you to pay attention to, because I want you to understand the back and forth and the indecisions and the cycling and the confusion that MLCers feel. Because that's what your MLCer is feeling. He doesn't want to be in this. And he's drinking, and he's depressed, and he's scared. But limerence is taken over. I will also try to link my article on the anatomy of an affair, which you've gone over with Dr. Beam, and he's probably much better at it, but I will link that anyway. Okay. And I hope this is helpful. So let me know if you have any more questions. And the rest of you, let me know if you have any more questions. And I will see everybody in the next question. Thank you.